Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Cross and I am here with Dixie Andelin Forsyth for a feminine moment. And we are going to answer a question off of the Fascinating Womanhood business page that came in a few days ago. So I'll just read it to you and then you can answer it.
All right.
It says, I am such a big fan of Fascinating Womanhood. I was wanting to ask a question and I am not sure if this is the place. Yes. I was wondering what is the best, most respectful way to encourage my husband to lead more in our relationship and in our family. I've read your book and just ordered the vintage edition and can't wait to read it. My husband is a wonderful man. His mother was the head of the family and his father was more passive. What can I do to encourage his leadership? Thank you so much.
That's really interesting. A lot of times, something to consider, a lot of times, and Jenny, you're a professional counselor, so I'm sure I've seen this, women will tend to be attracted to the situations, to a person that kind of recreates a situation like in their family.
Mm.
Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
To you, where when you read that she said my mother was the dominant one and the father was more passive, she was attracted to a more passive guy.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, now all we know about her is what you read.
Yes.
We can't ask her any questions beyond that. We don't know. But my first thought is, oh, she married someone like her father.
Mm-hmm.
And so not everybody does that. Like, for example, me, I married somebody with some of my dad's qualities, but in some ways he's quite different because my father was a wonderful moral man, very honest and honorable, and Bob has those qualities. But my dad was also a stress ball. He worried a lot, and that's what I got.
I was going to say, you're more like your dad.
I'm more like my dad. I'm kind of a little bit OCD. I can't stand messes.
Mm-hmm.
My mother didn't like messes either, but she was more tolerant. Let's put it that way. She was more tolerant. I mean, she raised a family of 8 children, and we never had a messy house, but she wasn't always obsessed if there were crumbs on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? My dad would step in the kitchen and say, "Good night, nurse. Who left crumbs on the floor?" You know, or there's something sticky on this floor. And my mother was so busy preparing dinner or whatever that she would mop the floor later, but she wasn't obsessed about every little spot. You kind of get the idea. And I'm a little bit more like my dad, where I can't stand to cook in my kitchen unless it's clean. I don't cook if there's any dishes in the sink, I wash them first before I start something new.
Yes.
And so whoever this is, our reader, she sounds like she's married somebody kind of like her dad, but she's kind of hoping for somebody that's not like that in some ways. Maybe she was attracted to him for the things about her dad that were real positive attributes.
Mm-hmm.
But people often do this. And so back to the question about how does she inspire him? Well, first of all, you accept him exactly as he is.
Mm-hmm.
You married a passive guy. But when a man knows when you need him, maybe if it were me, I might list out ways that I need him. And then allow yourself to need him for those things. And when you do actually need somebody, you have a way of conveying that.
So you're telling her to be maybe a little less independent, a little less efficient.
Look at herself. We don't know her, so we're just asking these questions. What is she? Is she like her mother?
Mm-hmm.
Is she really more, like you said, independent? What does she need him for? That now, not hopefully in the future, now.
And how about, I cannot wait in Timeless, don't you talk about the 2 different leaders in the family, the relationship leaders?
Yes. Yeah, there's in Fascinating Womanhood Vintage, my mother talks more about the leader, and then the other one is by default kind of a follower, but it's a little bit more on the same plane than that. There's different types of leaders. In an ideal family, there's a task leader, someone's got to be in charge of getting the job done, making sure that everyone gets ready and gets out the door to go get photos taken. Because you have an appointment, or you have a appointment here. Say you're going on a trip and you're flying. Somebody has got to make sure that you make that plane on time, or it will leave, and we all know that. And then there's the other leader, which is more of a relationship leader, and that's the person who is concerned about how people feel about getting the job done. And that's more women are relationship leaders than men, but sometimes it's reversed. And maybe this girl, it's reversed, but she doesn't really, maybe she wishes that he was more of that other way. And if she wants to bring out the best of that leadership quality in him, need him, and he has to know you need it. That comes in for, first of all, accepting a man at face value, what he is. If you married a more of a passive guy, like her father, look at his qualities, maybe list them, what you love about him, and then this is what is, and then what you can do. Look at yourself, and then get to work. This is all self-work, which is cool, because you can work on yourself 24 hours a day, and it's completely appropriate. You're never gonna be doing something wrong when you're working on yourself. If you're dieting, or you're reading self-help books, and you're taking classes, that's perfectly appropriate. But if you're working on someone else, you can get into trouble really fast, as many of us have found out.
And what we find out too is that most men will rebel and then go further away from what you're actually trying to do if you use manipulation top.
Well, you can call it anything you want, and if it's still manipulation, it's not like men won't feel it.
Yeah,
men are very bright, and they will know it, not just feel it. And what they tend to do, because they don't tend to be as verbal or even in touch, but they kind of know what they feel. They tend to put up a protective, invisible barrier around themselves and kind of dig in their heels. So, but the best thing you can do is to need him. I mean, if this woman's husband had a small child that he was caring for during the day, he was left to care for a 4-year-old. He knows that child needs him for a lot of things, to bathe them, to help dress them, to feed them, and so he
Good point.
Even if he's a passive guy, he's going to do those things where he's needed. He's not going to just say, well, I'm passive, so let the child take care of itself.
And so it really does beg the question, and we can ask her, what specifically, in what areas is he not leading? What let's get more information.
You want him? What would you like him? What do you wish that he would do? And do you do any of those things yourself?
Yeah.
If you are more of a leader type and you don't particularly like it, you've got to be more of someone who needs him. And even that is something that you do.
I think this video we're doing, this is part 1. We're going to do part 2. I'm going to follow up with her and ask her some more questions, and so we can see this through, because I know a lot of questions I get from women are, what does this look like, me inspiring him? What does it look like in everyday life?
That's another video, and that's a very good question. What does it look like to inspire him? It looks like you're changing yourself. That's what it looks like.
So yeah, we'll
talk about more about that later, because you can. Just like you can decide to go on a diet, and if you don't need to go on a diet, you can decide to exercise and make that part of your life. You can decide many things. You can decide to, like I do it sometimes. I always look for letters I like and adopt them into my handwriting. I can change my handwriting if I want. Not
well, because you're artistic, that's why.
Well, I just like it.
Yeah.
Some people don't give a rip and they don't care, and so that's fine. But you can change things about yourself. You can change your hair. You can change your makeup. Say, I'm going to try I'm going to look on YouTube and find some interesting ways to do my eyes. And you can do that. And that can be the new you. The new you can also be something more substantial. Like when you inspire your husband, your goal can't be, I'm going to inspire my husband to take out the trash every week. That's called manipulation. You're just trying to say it's inspiring, but it's actually, you have to actually understand what inspiration means.
You have to actually change and become more feminine manner. What are the things that you would recommend that she work on to inspire this side of his leadership?
Well, for one thing, accept him. Don't try to change him.
Okay, so everything.
Don't try to change it. And now this is hard. This is hard, and I'm validating that it is hard. It's a whole paradigm shift.
Yes.
Because if you're working, nobody appreciates being someone else's project. And if you think that you're going to be able to do it in a way he'll have no idea, it's self-deception. It just doesn't work, you guys. It just doesn't work. So, okay, it doesn't work. So now what do? We change ourselves. We accept him. If the guy never takes out the trash the rest of his life, it's more like accepting what is. Like, okay,
I love that.
It's like if your husband gets in an accident and he loses a leg, you have to at some point accept he has lost a leg. You can't keep trying to figure out how to make it grow.
Right.
You know what I mean? And go with that. He has one leg, and then even then, if he decides not to get a prosthetic limb, you have to accept that.
I have several women ask too, well, how long will it take for my husband to change once I start living FW? And I'm like, this is not what it's about. He may never. It has nothing to do with him changing.
If you're doing it in order for him to change, it's not the right focus. It's not going to make you the happiest.
Yes.
It's not going to make you feel the freest. I know it sounds like it's the opposite, but it's not true.
Is not on him, it's on you.
How long till he changes? This is simple. How would I feel? How would you feel if you found out your husband was on some sign saying, how long until my wife changes? You'd think, hey, I don't like this site, right?
Terrible.
Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
So, but I feel happy because on Fascinating Womanhood, if any of our husbands were to see this, they would love this.
Yes.
Because now we don't support horrible behavior.
No.
But even then you have to accept you just found out your husband was a serial killer, don't try to change him.
Yeah.
You can take steps to protect yourself. You can turn him into the police. You can do all kinds of things. But for you to take him on as a project to change him and make him a born again Christian, forget it.
Seems a little crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. You in something extreme like that, we all know, no, you can't change him. That's,
all right.
Anyway, so
we got to go I will ask these questions. We'll come back and we'll do part 2. Thank you so much, Dixie. And for everybody watching, we love your comments. Please comment and share. Take care. Bye-bye.